Let me play a clip because Hillary got some support from, I would never have believed that she would get support from Fox News. Not only did she get support, but she got some serious support from Fox News. Here's the clip of Judge Pirro, whatever her name is. You'll see her name in a second, but this just caught me completely off guard. Here it is. Actually, that's not it. This is it.
Look into Hillary Clinton's emails after he announced on July 5th the conclusion of that very investigation, saying no reasonable prosecutor would indict 11 days before one of the most hotly contested presidential elections of our time both disgraces and politicizes the FBI and is symptomatic of all that is wrong in Washington. Comey's actions violate not only long-standing Justice Department policy, the directive of the person that he works under, the Attorney General, but even more important, the most fundamental rules of fairness and impartiality. 10 years ago, when I was the Republican conservative candidate for New York Attorney General, in the home stretch of a statewide campaign, the Justice Department and the FBI violated their own policy against making public statements that would affect an election and announced to the press that they were opening an investigation of me. It was mean-spirited, and of course, nothing came of it, except the adverse publicity cost me at the polls. What was done to me in 2006 was wrong. And what happened to Hillary Clinton yesterday was equally wrong.
Wow.
The Justice Department and the FBI's policy to not comment publicly about politically sensitive investigations within 60 days of an election exists for a very important reason. Announcements so close to elections have an impact. Now, this nation has already gone through an exhausting and traumatic campaign season. The FBI director should not now be front and center. One of the most revered agencies in our nation's history, now seen as putting its finger on the scales of justice, should not now be front and center.
All right. So who knew that? I mean, just let's set aside her argument for 30 seconds. Then we'll rip apart her argument, such as it is. This is amazing that, one, this was even broadcast on Fox News. I guess it's her show. She could do what she wants to on it. But she has been one of the most fierce opponents and detractors of Hillary Clinton. Like, she's gone after Hillary Clinton for like blood. She has not been playing with Hillary Clinton, but this is an issue that she feels very passionately about in support of Hillary Clinton. Just give me your thoughts on the irony of it, and then let's unpack her argument. Let's go to David. David, you've been kind of quiet, man. What did you think about the fact that this Fox News reporter is coming full-throated, showing full-throated support for Hillary Clinton?
I think it's consistent with the unpredictableness, if that's a word,
close enough,
of this election. Just how throw all the rules out, forget about everything that we know in modern elections and the sides that you expect everyone to be on. Yeah. It's consistent in that regard. The fact that Fox News played that, I do agree is very surprising.
Surprising. What you think, Anoa?
I think that we have women on both sides of the aisle who are identifying with other women in power who are now being called out for their BS. She's presenting as if she was just the victim of some heinous investigation with no merits whatsoever, just like we see with Hillary Clinton. Mm-hmm. And I think they identify with each other. It doesn't matter what they claim on their voter registration card as their party. They are an elite class of women who are above the rest of us, and they should not be called out on their stuff. If there's a crime being committed, if you did something wrong, no, we just shouldn't let you get into office. So that policy of the FBI is stupid. I do think they probably did put the finger on the tail because she was running against Andrew Cuomo at the time. I wouldn't be surprised if Hillary was actually, in on that too. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. But I just think that she's identifying as, well, we've seen a lot of Republican women who are appalled by Trump come out and identify with Hillary Clinton because they're all powerful women. They're all elitist women who are fighting with elite white men for power, and not as if they're sometimes just really trying to be social justice warriors.
Yeah, oh, definitely. I agree with that 100%. I wanted to add something, but I think it should stand exactly how you said it. Brandon, what do you think?
I want to co-sign what Anoa said, but then add to it. I think ultimately we've seen this before. This is power protecting power. This is someone coming out with the opinion that no matter what someone in a position of power, an establishment insider does, they should not be subject to laws the same way that a normal person would be, regardless of whether they're on the same side or not. And I would say this is also akin to Obama not prosecuting anyone from the Bush administration. They don't want to set a bad precedent where it can be brought up on charges for any reason, regardless of how legitimate they may or may not be. And so the idea, I don't know what the Republicans' game was. I don't know what all these investigations were trying to do if they weren't trying to have her actually brought up on charges. I guess it was a smear campaign, but they don't want to. Republicans, no matter how anti-Hillary, anti-Democrat they pretend to be, they would never ever want to set the precedent where a Democratic candidate could actually be put in jail for something that they did that would be perceived as dangerous, because that would start a snowballing effect of people actually being tried for their crimes that they commit while they're in office, and that is not anything that anyone in the insider circles want at all.
I would say,
my opinion.
Let me push back a little. I agree with most of what you guys said, but I think for Judge Pirro, I think her thing is, someone tweeted this to me earlier and I thought about it, like, I think this may be the case. Most of the time, like, she has been after Hillary Clinton on everything else except for this one issue. And she, even to the point where she would tacitly support Donald Trump, except for this one issue. I think it's more of, in my opinion, I think it's more of what happens to most conservatives. The fact that they can't identify with anything, they don't believe anything exists unless they've gone through it. You ever met somebody? Who doesn't believe racism exists, and then they finally see it, and they're like, "Oh my God, I didn't know!" And then now they're your fiercest supporter. I think with Judge Pirro, it's like, if she had not gone through this, she wouldn't give two rats' ass about Hillary Clinton going through this. But because she has personal pain with it, she can identify with it. Somebody mentioned that to me on Twitter, and I thought it was a really good observation. I've been thinking about it all day.
Yeah, that is a good point. That is a good point.
I agree.
The only other thing. Go ahead, Brandon.
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
I just think a lot of this is professional wrestling. I think a lot of this is just like akin to like people playing the heel, people playing the savior, when ultimately they're all just lining their pockets, and they play golf together afterwards at the end of the day. And so I agree that a lot of this is personal, because she made it about her. She made that half of that speech was about her own personal experience, which is like, okay, kind of like related, but not the point. Yeah, that was like, what, 10 years ago? Like, get over it. I get it.
She's still bitter about that, man. She can still feel that in the back of her throat. Like, that's near and dear to her. Here's the other way I disagree. I think I might have taken issue with what you said. I think you're right. They don't want to set the precedent of prosecuting anyone in power. But I think there's also there is a level of I don't know. Let's say, how would it look if Democrats actually went after Republicans the same way Republicans go after Democrats? Like, they went to the impeachment trial for Bill Clinton, right? They went after him. They tried to get. They weren't playing. That wasn't wrestling to them. They went all the way, and it really could have ended any other direction instead of him still remaining president. And we see with the Benghazi trials, as ridiculous of a fiasco that was, I feel like they really wanted to get Hillary Clinton. I don't think it's a game on that side of the equation. I think they are really apt to get for blood. And I think the Democrats are the only ones who are not trying to prosecute or really go after people that they can go after, because I guess maybe they're gun shy. I don't know. I don't know. What do you think?
I think that I agree with you. I guess, let me rephrase what I said earlier. Half of the Republicans are crazy, and they are actually trying to. No, I mean, half of them. the Tea Party caucus, a lot of them, they're just crazy. They're not right wing, they're anarchists or of some form or another, and they actually do, you know, get off on the idea of putting Clinton behind bars and, oh my God, because they're not thinking of any of the long-term consequences of that. I think a good number of them are just trying to disgrace her and like use this as a political trick to prevent her ascendancy or whatever, because that's just part of the Republican talking point fundraising scheme. When it comes to the Democrats, I think they're more conniving. I think that they have never come out strongly enough against anything the Republicans have actually done, because
they agree with
it would implicate them as well. And my best example of that would be this. At no point have the Democrats ever made racism or sexism or homophobia sort of a non-starter. You can't start there. Like, if you are guilty of these things by any conceivable metric, we will not support you. Because if you were to do that, you would be forced to look into the background of all the Democratic candidates and say, okay, well, if they've set this standard for Republicans, then we have to hold them to the same one. And how many Democrats, senators, congressmen from the South, from the Midwest, are pretty much just as homophobic, racist, and sexist at their Republican counterparts, but they, as Anoa so eloquently put it, they have some sort of vague notion that white women should be equal to white men. They have some sort of vague notion that poor people shouldn't die in the streets. Like we've yet to make a lot of these sort of democratic issues or social justice issues or equity issues to be
a litmus test.
Red pills. Like if you're guilty of this, we're not voting for you. Because I mean, I make them personally red pills, which is why I can't vote for Clinton. But majority of where America's at, where we identify these sort of things as non-starters. Like I'm not negotiating with you on Social Security.
You pointed that out. Let me jump in there because we want to take this caller. North Carolina. When I was doing my research for the HB2 bill, you had like 9 Democrats, 5 of whom endorsed Hillary Clinton, who signed on to HB2. So it's like, you're right. If they actually drew the line somewhere, they'd have to hold their own shit to the fan.